Hello, this will be my first episode of my first Let's Play series, which is of the mod pack for Minecraft 1.2.5. I think it's the oldest mod pack that's currently in any launcher. The mod pack is Technic SSP, Survival Single Player. I think there's also the multiplayer version, but since I don't play on any servers and don't trust people not to grief, I tend to prefer the single player. So I've been playing this one for a bit. It's actually my second time trying to play this mod pack and learn the different mods in it. Since it's such an old version of Minecraft, the various mods in this pack, they either aren't in modern Minecraft mod packs, or they are in those mod packs at much later versions of the mods, which either have some items completely removed, or mechanics from those mods changed very much. So I guess kind of part of the reason why I wanted to play this really old mod pack is because in more recent mod packs, a lot of the content, there's a lot that's carried over from earlier Minecraft versions and is no longer really useful in modern Minecraft versions or with other mods that are in modern Minecraft. And then you also have the situation where, like, with some of the huge, very successful mods, like, for example, Botania, where there's just an absolutely enormous amount of content, and that's just a single mod, and mod packs have hundreds of mods a lot of the time. And if you go back to these earlier mod packs, the mods in them are a lot simpler. There's still a lot of content in the ones that are in here. For example, 47 pages of content. It's not quite what you would see in a more modern version, a more modern mod pack, but there's red power. Like, there's a ton of content added by red power, and this is way back in Minecraft 1.2.5, where even way back then there's so much content added by red power that it takes a ton of research just to know what's all there and how it can be used. And that's just one mod, and that's way back in Minecraft 1.2.5. And then you carry that complexity forward for all of the later Minecraft versions. It just gets so much more. It makes the game really heavy, in my opinion. I guess that's the way I'd put it. And so going back to Minecraft 1.2.5, trying out the earlier versions of these mods, even mods that exist today, but the earlier versions, you have a lot fewer. Basically, in the earlier versions, there's less stuff carried over from earlier versions of Minecraft, and so more content in the mod is actually helpful for the current mechanics and items, etc. that Minecraft provides and that other mods provide in that time period. So that's one thing that I was really looking forward to with trying to play these older versions and, like, learn the various things in IC2 and actually be able to use them without having 5 other mods provide equivalent things or slightly better versions of things that are provided by this older mod that has carried a lot of stuff forward from back in this old Minecraft version. Like Railcraft, I haven't had any point in trying to learn anything really from Railcraft besides making coke ovens or something. And that's because there hasn't really been a need to with all the content that's provided in later versions. And so I'm really hoping to have this be more of a learning experience for me, more than anything, so I can learn how these mods from way back in Minecraft 1.2.5, I could learn how to use the various things that they added, what purpose they served back then, and I can really then appreciate, you know, the usefulness of some of these things, and maybe find uses for them in more modern versions of Minecraft too. At the very least, if I use them in an older version of Minecraft where it's not pointless to do so, then I feel more productive, more accomplished, I guess, than if I were to, in a modern version of Minecraft, use something that doesn't have much point in being used because there's alternatives that are better in modern Minecraft. So I'm hoping that I'll have a more positive playing experience learning these the things that these older mods added. And this item subsets list, if I remember right, these categories here are added. The various mod authors could choose to add to this list themselves. So there are other mods in here that added content, like for example Thaumcraft, Thaumcraft 2, and it's not listed here because the author of Thaumcraft 2 did not basically did not put that configuration in their mod. So unfortunately I can't rely on this to get kind of a condensed overview of the things that are specifically added in the various categories of Thaumcraft 2 content. But with things like Railcraft, for example, you can see that's very, very helpful, especially if you want to filter for Railcraft carts. Well, now they're right here, because if you hold shift and click on one of these with NEI, which is this older version replaced by modern, like JEI, I think. But I like this item subsets thing here that is really handy. I'm a visual spatial learner, so for me it's easier to remember to navigate here and then like hold shift and click on something to filter for it than it is for me. Instead, for me to try remembering, oh, I need to remember to put an @ and then remember capitalization on like Railcraft, and even right now it's not filtering anything because it's not matching. And yeah, so that this feature here is really nice, and it's not in modern, from what I can tell, it's not in a lot of modern mod packs that, at least not the ones I've looked at. Yeah, it's at railcraft.carts, so if I remove that, it doesn't filter anything until the T is put on. So I don't know if JEI has the same shortcoming, but if it does, that just adds, that just supports my point that it's more convenient to just navigate here and then shift click. Anyway, point of the video is not any of that. Point of the video, I guess, is to bring you up to speed on this world here. So, basically in Technic SSP modpack, there is a there's not a lot of mods in modern day standards, but there are a lot of content adding mods. For example, there's Mystcraft, which this doesn't really show you it very much, but basically in Mystcraft, like in normal Minecraft, you have the overworld, which I'm in, and then you have the nether, which you can make another portal to go to, and then you have the end, which you can make a portal to the end to fight the Ender Dragon. But in the Mystcraft mod, you can basically make additional dimensions, I think is the term for them. So not only do you have the overworld and the nether and the end, but you can make as many more as you want, as many more as your hard drive would be okay with. Each of them does increase the size of your save file naturally, so the more you make, the more space is going to be taken up. But basically, you make this writing desk, and this is an old version. Mystcraft still exists, and it's way different now from what I saw, but basically in this old version you've got symbols here that are added to your notebook anytime that you discover a new world, basically, a new dimension. And the way you discover those is by making books of discovery, and then using those to navigate. And each of these are on book stands. But for example, this one here, I called it Endless Desert Day. You can rename it in here when it's placed. But when I travel there, and we'll do that at some point, basically this one has certain features in the dimension where instead of looking like this world or looking like the nether, it is just desert everywhere. You can walk forever and it'll still be desert. And it'll always be daytime. It's like a nightmare. Or in like some of those movies where you're just like, the guy's walking endlessly and looks up and the sun is directly overhead. And yeah, not a good explanation of it, but the neat thing about that one is it strips out a lot of everything else from the world. So you have, and you might notice down there's, for example, jellyfish added by the mod Mo Creatures. And there might be snakes or something over here somewhere. Yeah, that's a snake behind those flowers. So basically, in the desert, you don't have a variety of animals. You pretty much only get snakes. Lots of snakes everywhere. And that's just because that's the biome that's one of the biomes that they spawn in, and not much else will spawn in the deserts here in this old version of Minecraft. So that's an interesting feature of that. But there's also Thaumcraft 2 in this mod pack, and in Thaumcraft 2 you have, I don't know about the later versions of Thaumcraft, I don't know very much about Thaumcraft 2 either, but in Thaumcraft 2 you have these obelisks, I think is what they're called. Basically, obelisks are added both by Mystcraft and by Thaumcraft 2. The Mystcraft ones are basically, they look like big towers of solid obsidian. So that's how you can tell that they're from Mystcraft. But you also have these other obelisks, and you can see, I have it actually marked on my mini-map here. Eldritch Monument, I think is what it's called. Basically, it's like a floating, there's this little floating spire of black stone, and it has, like, as you get close to it, it has like dark lightning or dark electricity like coming off of it, and below it there's like this area with kind of a end portal kind of background, And it's really, really neat. But in Endless Desert Day dimension, you can see those all over the place. And if I remember right, the chunks that those monuments are located in are chunks that have a high aura rating in Thaumcraft 2. So those also, because of the high aura rating, they promote spawning of Thaumcraft 2 slimes, which are like regular slimes but purple and small usually. I don't think I've seen any larger than the second smallest size of regular slime. But they spawn those, but they also spawn wisps. I think that's what they're called, wisps. Basically the things that fly around and make like a like tinkling kind of noise, and they're all like shiny colored and everything. You'll see them at some point, sometimes around here even. But you see those everywhere in the desert too. So one of the reasons that I started working on the Mystcraft side of things relatively early in this mod pack was because from the reading that I did and because of some things I experienced in my first attempt at playing this mod pack, kind of realized that it's very important to work on Thaumcraft things in a very controlled environment, I guess I would say. So if I go to this desert, and I'll just note right now, in Minecraft 1.2.5, in this mod pack, there's no point in going to villages very much, except for maybe finding some Thaumcraft 2 loot in the chest in one of the houses. The villagers don't trade anything. They don't do anything. It's not in the game yet. But there's also in the desert no desert temples. And so the only point in this desert world there, the only point in using that for me in this Let's Play series is I'm hoping to use that, I guess, as my Thaumcraft base of operations. So because all of the places in it are already super high aura rating, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, but there's eldritch monuments all over the place there. Very easy to find, very easy to get to a lot of them, and those apparently have a lot of really good stuff inside once you get advanced enough to get the right combination of crystals to unlock them. So that'll be a nice mid-game kind of present once I get to that. But until then, I'm probably not going to use that that world except for doing early Thaumcraft research and stuff. But before I even do anything in Thaumcraft at all, I've got some other things to work on. This one here, dense ores, ×5, flat, and day. This one is kind of a little cheaty, and I'm only allowing myself to use it because of what happened the last time I tried playing this mod pack. So basically, dense ores is a modifier in the Mystcraft mod. It's a modifier for your dimension that increases the chance of ores, basically makes ores much more common underground. So that's all ores. That's like not just coal and iron, that's diamond and everything. Even ores added by mods like uranium. So by using dense ores as a modifier, it's basically giving you a world, and you can use it multiple times, that's what the ×5 there means. It's basically making the world much heavier, basically making the world have a lot more stuff. Sorry, my brain's kind of dead right now. A lot more mineable resources. Much easier to get. So, I mean, it makes the game way easier, but I'm not just using NEI to cheat in a whole bunch of stuff. I'm still going to have to go dig for it. But it will help me speed past some of the more grindy side of things of collecting the resources, which I'm not terribly opposed to, because I've already explored some of the things that Buildcraft provides, which actually there's not a Buildcraft category. But things like using a quarry, for example, I explored that in a different mod pack, and even though it's something that I want to go into a little bit more at some point, I don't want to do it in this particular mod pack because this one has some mods that I can't play in more modern versions of Minecraft. Whereas with Buildcraft, there's a lot of the content from Buildcraft is carried over into later versions of that mod and Minecraft. And that means that I can use Buildcraft features and learn more about all of the things that mod provides. I can do that in more modern versions of Minecraft that have more convenient gameplay mechanics, or that have other mods that I want to experience once I've went as far as I want to go with the ones that are in this mod pack. But the dense ores, though, basically what happened in the first time I tried playing this mod pack, the problem was that I basically started a base around where I spawned, which I tended to do just because I like the challenge of being put into a random environment and trying to make my way and succeed. But soon after I got established there, which meant that I put, like, you know, a decent amount of time into it at that point, I started seeing some purple stuff on a nearby hill, and then the trees started turning purple, and then I started seeing purple animals and purple mobs, purple creepers, and the mobs, like sheep, the purple sheep were attacking other mobs. Basically a lot of bad stuff was happening, and that was from Thaumcraft 2. And apparently in Thaumcraft 2, even if you don't touch any Thaumcraft 2 blocks or items or mechanics, if you don't touch that mod at all intentionally in any way, you will still get places in the world, at least in this version, you will still get places in your world that will automatically have a high enough taint rating from the start of the game to create a taint infection in those cells with a high taint rating. And that taint infection is what makes everything purple. It corrupts the animals and all that, and it spreads. And the more it spreads, the faster it spreads. And that's very, very, very bad. It basically ruins the whole game. It ruins your world if you can't get a taint infection under control. So when I saw this, I saw, well, it was, if I remember right, about 6 chunks wide, in not really a circle around that, but it was about 6 by 6 chunks, which is not small. But apparently if you surround it like dig a trench all the way around it and put certain types of blocks like cobblestone or slabs in that trench all the way around, making a solid barrier, then it should prevent the taint from spreading. And I actually got this one contained. And then when I was out exploring, because I was trying to find something else at some point after putting another like dozen or 24 hours into the game, I came across another one, and it was just as big as the first one I came across. And it wasn't too far from my base. It was just in a different direction that I hadn't really gone. And so I tried getting that under containment because it was close enough to me and had spread enough at that point that it was going to just continue spreading anytime I was at my base. And I had enough invested in that base that I didn't want to get rid of it just yet and move somewhere else. So that second taint infection I was not able to get contained, just given the landscape features and how far it had spread by that point. It was just not possible. And so I had to scrap all of the progress I made in that world. I mean, I learned quite a bit. I guess that's my point in playing any of these. I try to learn the features of the various mods that I haven't played yet, like Mo Creatures. It doesn't just add like animals like that wolf or that skeleton horse or whatever. It adds like these animals have their own breeding mechanics or taming mechanics. You can ride some of them. You can put a chest on some of them. Maybe not in this older version, but even a mod that you might think just adds mobs or animals, it adds a lot more than just that sometimes. And I learned some of those things from that first playthrough, and so that's kind of why I'm not even focusing much on that aspect of this mod pack in this playthrough, this Let's Play. But that's also why I built my place here in the way that I did. Because when I started on this island here, there was a single tree right here, and it wasn't a very tall tree. I got maybe 5 or 6 pieces of wood off of it, and there was no tree anywhere else. And so I could have probably taken a boat and went off to some other place nearby and tried getting more wood or whatever, more resources, or just finding a place that has more resources nearby. But the reason I'm here, well, it's twofold. I want to be away from Eldritch Monuments because I don't trust them, because I don't know enough about Thaumcraft 2 to know that their high aura rating won't cause taint infections eventually. So I'm staying at least a couple 100 meters away most of the time. And even though taint can spread underwater, I'm staying far enough away to be safe. The other reason that I have it built this way is because snakes will spawn and scorpions will spawn, as you saw over here. Well, that one just despawned, but there's one on the top. And they're not terrible to fight off. The scorpions and snakes spawn during the day. The snakes are sometimes hostile. The scorpions only if they're in the shade. But it's still, starting the game over here was not very easy with that situation, because I was getting snakes coming across the water over to this island, even when I was in the middle and close enough to the sides to not let any spawn. And then I was getting attacked and I didn't have any food at the time, or any decent tools to fight them. So I started digging, like, right under here, just to get some stone and whatever, make some starting tools, while I let a couple of saplings grow. And the first couple saplings, of course, is always the slowest and most painful time of the game. But after I had that starting thing, I built a wall around it, and then I built a little platform over the water kind of thinking, well, I can try to make some kind of neat, like, water-based entry area where, like, I can take a boat underneath it and then enter my place from the water instead of having to go onto the land, because I'm in the middle of the ocean and I'm going to be using water transport quite a lot. So I want to not have to go get in and out of my boat and then wade through the water, etc. So that's why I went over the water here. But I built the fencing to keep the snakes out. I think the scorpions don't go in the water. I could be wrong, but I haven't had any problems with them since I did this. The fencing is all the way up to the very edge of the land, so that nothing can come onto the land and then climb up it. And anything that goes outside of the fencing is over the water by a couple blocks, like 2 or 3 blocks. So nothing can climb up the sides of this onto the top or anything. And I have it really well lit. I don't really need to. I really overdid it, but I don't care. And then I got started with finding sugarcane over that way, and cacti in a desert even further that way, and some seeds out that way a little bit later. And then I brought a bunch of eggs back here and started a local chicken farm. I had to make a chicken farm over that way while I was collecting some seeds and stuff, because I was trying to get feathers, because the only way in Mystcraft to make the discovery books that create new ages, new dimensions, you need a feather for each one of those books. And in this old version of Minecraft, I should mention, books don't require leather, they just require paper. So sugarcane farm, very important for Mystcraft. Also, sugarcane farm just for paper is very important for Thaumcraft eventually, because of all the research that I'm going to end up having to do, each of which requires paper. So I got an early start on that. The cacti here, yes, the cacti here are important later on for making things waterproof in Buildcraft. But I think there's a way to do that. I think I saw a way to do that just using slime balls. And in this mod pack, you have jellyfish, and they, when they're killed, will give you slime. So, might not actually need cacti in this in order to make waterproof stuff. Oh, other neat thing about the desert world dimension. There are... Thaumcraft also, I think, adds... Oh, there's Wisp. Thaumcraft also adds cinder pearls. I think they're called that in this old version. Basically flowers that are kind of like burning, and when they're broken, they give you cinder pearl pod, which can be crafted, I think, into blaze powder. So instead of going to the nether and killing blazes to get blaze powder and to make what's that cream? Blaze. Sorry, still kind of tired. Must be on this page. Yeah, magma cream. Instead of going to the nether to do that, and to make Eye of Ender, etc., it's now possible just to go to this desert area, break those, get the blaze powder from them, from the cinder pearl pods, and then you have magma cream, which you can use to do some neat stuff, like fire resistance potions. Anyway, distractions keep coming up, but there's just so much in Minecraft in general, but adding mods to it. Yeah, there's the snakes over there, just a bunch of little cubes that move. Kind of creepy. Anyway, quick tour. So obviously infinite water source. Chickens for, well, now for food also, but initially just for feathers to make new dimensions. All this for paper and books, so that I can do Mystcraft and Thaumcraft 2 stuff. And maybe make some cakes eventually, now that I have chickens. Obviously wheat. In this version of Minecraft, wheat is actually necessary in order to breed chickens. Or ducks. Mo Creatures mod adds ducks as wild types of chickens. And so because they don't breed with just seed, I actually, when I went out there to try finding chickens to get feathers so that I could start working on Mystcraft, I ended up spending a ton of time out there and building a base because I had to plant a bunch of seeds and let them grow into wheat and breed enough chickens using that to breed the chickens enough so that there were enough of them making enough eggs for me to start a farm over here with them, because there was no way I was going to get the chickens like half a kilometer over the ocean to my base. So there's that backstory. Anyway, yeah, snakes go in the water. Not cool. So basically, yeah, I haven't shown you anything beneath all this yet. I just have a base of cobblestone with some dirt as needed. Cobblestone base is convenient so that I don't have pillars of water coming down from that or sand falling. Here is my Mystcraft stuff, linking book. I make them in bulk if I'm going, well, I was making them in bulk. I don't think I'm going to need to make anything in Mystcraft for quite a while, now that I've found the dense ores, and a place to do Thaumcraft stuff, but who knows. The bottom row here is all bad stuff. The middle row is not so bad, and some good. I don't really need to keep any of these because each time I discovered one of them, I put it in the writing desk here, and all of the symbols from it were added to the notebook. And once that's been done, you can just put a new discovery book here and select symbols. It has to be a new one, you can't have traveled to it first. So you just craft one using a feather in the book, put it here, and then select the symbols that you want from these tabs. For example, you can make an extreme hills single biome, so everything would be extreme hills. Dark, which means that even when the sun is out, mobs will spawn in the sunlight because it's darker. Bright, I think, is the opposite of that. I think they won't spawn except completely underground. That's why I made this one bright. But, yeah, you get the idea. Crystals are something Mystcraft adds also in addition to the obelisks. The crystals allow you to make, instead of using these link book stands that you have to use to keep the books from despawning eventually, instead of using these stands, you can actually put the books inside of basically the Mystcraft equivalent of the Nether portal. You use the crystal blocks from a world that has that crystal symbol. You mine those crystal blocks, you build a portal out of them, you put a book in the portal, and it becomes a permanent teleporter when you enter that portal, or when any entity, like a mob or whatever, enters that portal. It will teleport to that age, or in the case of a linking book, it will teleport you to where that linking book was created, which is kind of your way back from these new ages. So Skylands with mine shafts, eternal snow at a high elevation and flat, mushrooms, cave world, which means tons of caves, and eternal dusk, mixed, basically alternating forest and ocean chunks, dark and icy, dark and frozen, desert and frozen ocean, with lots of mobs because it's dark all the time. So yeah, that's the gist of Mystcraft. This is the room I started out in. It needs to be upgraded, or I need to go elsewhere, but the floor is a little bit too low. I need to raise it up at least one, or do something else with this place, which is just a pain because of the stuff I have stored. But reason it needs to move is because if I get out of my boat and I'm not positioned directly underneath a chest, then I will start suffocating, even though I'm using half slabs. So yeah, that's not cool. But yeah, this is the place from the outside. As you can see, there's not really any way for anything to climb up, and I won't get any spiders spawning over here anyway because there's nowhere for them to spawn that's not lit up or transparent block. Jellyfish, jellyfish, jellyfish. And nothing. Okay. Oh, one thing that I didn't mention. There's another mod, kind of a convenience mod, that was added to this, or that's part of this Technic SSP mod pack. I think it's called Treecapitator. So basically, you break a block on the tree, and all the wood breaks. And that definitely feels cheaty, but it also takes out some of the grind. But way back in this older version of Minecraft, there was no vein miner, I think is what the modern one is called. There's a new name for it, but there's no automatic mining of every block of a certain type like there is in a lot of modern Minecraft mod packs. And so this is pretty tame in comparison. And kind of a nice convenience feature, especially at the start of the game, which I think is why it's in here. Because more mid-game stuff that helps you speed things up, or like skip a bunch of stuff, I think that might be less acceptable because you're supposed to find ways of using the mod content to make that progress yourself. But in the start of the game, it can be really tedious to wait for getting enough wood to actually get situated. So this makes sense. If you're starting a forest though, which I did the first playthrough, you get way too much stuff way too quickly. It's not like a bad thing, but it just feels broken. Let's see. Oh, I didn't mention the texture pack. It's I'm put it in the video description on the last video, but it's Sphax Pure BD Craft, and surprisingly it's still around, the download for it, this old version. There is something that's broken in it though, and that's the coke oven interface. But once you see where the spots are, and they light up when you have the coke oven built, and you hover something over this spot and that spot, or here and here. So you can figure out where things go in that. Probably going to try to fix the actual texture file at some point, but right now I'm not bothering with it. Oh yeah, and Mo creatures, skeletons ride not just horses, but every kind of horse, including flying black horses. I think they're called bat horses. And I saw some of those in a ravine just yesterday. So that's an interesting situation. I'm not going anywhere near those. So yeah, over here basically my plan, if I stick around this area, my plan is to just keep expanding above the water. Nothing will spawn, nothing dangerous. I expect nothing dangerous to spawn in the water, even if it's completely dark. Nothing more dangerous than spawns anyway. There's sharks and stuff, but that's why I don't travel across the water more than I need to. So I'll build over it if I need to expand more. Not really anything special down here, just a spiral staircase I started out with. Here's a V crystal. It's actually a aqueous crystal. I could break it and collect the crystals from it, but there's a negative side of doing that. You can use the crystals to, do stuff in Thaumcraft, but when you remove the crystals, you make the area that you're in a little bit less stable from a Thaumcraft perspective, and it makes it more likely that it will allow it to get a taint infection and ruin your world. So I'm not touching any of them more than I need to in my overworld, and in any Mystcraft world I'm going to carefully harvest them, unless I find that I can be more carefree about it. I think there's a ravine over this way. There's a really big ravine. Yeah, there's a regular V crystal, like the bright magenta color. Yeah, and in the that's a vaporous crystal, basically air, water, and the other one was water. Uranium, marble from red power. But in the dense ores world, there is I put a world modifier there so that there's ravines, so it's not just a flat endless plains during the day with tons of ores underground. I made it so there's ravines too, and I'm kind of regretting that, but at the same time it will make it a little more interesting to work with. Only reason I'm regretting it is because instead of just making it easy to just dig a staircase down to a low level in mine and keep the place fully lit up and not spawning anything, well, now when I get to a big ravine I've got stuff spawned in it from the start, and I need to be a little bit more careful. I try to play non-confrontationally if I can help it. Just because I'm not great at timing stuff or whatever, and so dealing with that kind of situation slows me down quite a bit. Whereas if I were playing in peaceful, for example, which I got bored with in the past, I like a little bit of challenge at least. So I guess that's why I've got that risk still there, putting the ravines in, and I'll deal with it. What time is it? Okay. Probably going to wrap this up. in a few minutes. Where did I? Oh, I cut that tree down. Right. What else do we have over here? Yep, so those are the scorpions. Scorpions climb walls, just like spiders do. Some of the scorpions, when they're killed, will drop baby scorpions, which can go into a one by one block area. So if you have an open window, a baby scorpion will climb in and can poison you. It's not very hazardous, they don't really do much harm, unless you've got 4 of them, and they can drop like 4. So if you're not careful, and you're not protected, and you get one angry, and you're playing on hard, for example, or your health is low, you could die from that. So that's good to know. One thing I need to keep an eye open for is zombies. Thaumcraft 2 has what are called angry zombies, I think, which are supposed to drop brains so that you can, use that as a research item, or make brains in jars, which are the equivalent of, well, I'd have to look up exactly how it works again, but zombies are supposed to drop brains sometimes in this mod pack, and I haven't seen them do that, so I need to keep an eye out for that, because if they don't drop brains, it might have something to do with the Mo creatures settings. I'll probably make a separate video showing some of the things that I learned in that first attempt at playing this mod pack. Because some of them I had to change some settings here, had to change some settings in Mystcraft, had to do some other things that I haven't mentioned yet here. But they're good to know, so I want to mention them when I have the time. Yeah, I'll look at it some other time. But that's something I'll keep an eye out for. Sharks, though, unfortunately, they spawn in groups just like squid. And so if you're out in your boat traveling quickly between islands, for example, you could get a group of anything spawning nearby, including like jellyfish, and your boat could break and the sharks would attack you, and you can't place another boat. I mean, you might be able to place another. I suppose if you had another one with you in your hotbar, you could quickly place one, but your boat itself doesn't drop if it hits something like a squid or whatever, or jellyfish, and so you would be easy prey to things like sharks out there. Jellyfish also will attack you, they're slow though, and less dangerous than sharks. Dolphins, I think, will attack you in certain situations, and they also exist in this mod pack. There's a whole bunch of creatures this mod pack has. But, yeah, so I think I'm going to wrap it up there for today, and then tomorrow I will stop back at the previous base and then start making progress on moving forward in the dense ores world, so that I can get at least, I mean, I don't need ore doubling, dense ores is good enough, but I want to have ore doubling because I want to use the, for example, I want to use the macerator for some other things that aren't specifically ore doubling related, but just to be able to use that would be convenient, and I haven't had that opportunity yet, so I'll give it a try, and if it feels too overpowered then I just won't use it, but we'll see. I think I mined like 11 nether diamond ore, and if you just burn that in a regular furnace, you'll get 11 diamonds, which is it's still 11 diamonds in like not a very long amount of time in that world, but could be 22 diamonds, and if I use the mace raider. So I am, at least I want to give that a try and see how overpowered it feels. I might only use it to get started. One other thing I didn't mention, I'll mention it really quick before I cut off for today. There is, in this mod pack, it's not listed here, but there is equivalent exchange. So, equivalent exchange 2 specifically. So, after Minecraft 1.2.5, equivalent exchange 3 came out, and it still has the Philosopher's Stone, and still allows you to transmute some things between like grass and sand or stone or whatever. It still allows you to exchange some things like diamond with gold, but it's severely limited in what it can do. And all of these power rings, like Swiftwolf's Rending Gale, which lets you fly, basically, these endgame power items are not in equivalent exchange 3. And so I wanted to experience a mod pack that lets me play not like in Feed the Beast Retro, which also is version 1.2.5 of Minecraft, but it requires you using a specific map, which is basically a skyblock. I wanted to be able to use the equivalent exchange 2 features and other things like old red power stuff. I wanted to be able to use it all in an actual Minecraft world that was generated from a seed, and to be able to use like Mystcraft features, explore the different dimensions, use equivalent exchange 2. I'll just say EE2. Use EE2 features or special tools and things in the actual world so that I can actually use them for the purposes they were intended for, instead of skipping, like, for example, half of IC2 because it is not useful in a skyblock environment. So that was another motivator for trying this very old mod pack, Technic SSP, because I don't know any more convenient way to be able to try out or specifically learn those older mods and items and features. So that's something I'm looking forward to, but I won't be touching equivalent exchange until probably mid-game, because I learned in Feed the Beast Retro, I learned very quickly that it basically makes most other mod content not very useful anymore, just because of how overpowered everything gets. And you don't need to make farms, you don't need to make... After you get your first item, for example, your first pumpkin, you now have infinite pumpkins because you just throw them in a transmutation table. Or you teach the transmutation table what a pumpkin is, and then you use its EMC value to convert from something you have tons of, or something that's really valuable like a diamond, into like 1,000 pumpkins. Or like 20 stacks of cobblestone into a diamond. Things like that. It kind of breaks a lot of content added by other mods that were added for the purpose of making parts of the game more fun or less tedious, but they're pointless when you don't even need to mine anymore, for example. Once you get iron ore and you make iron ingot, you teach it to the table, and well, now you just take iron ore out of the table, out of the transmutation tablet anytime you need iron ore, because you just keep pumping in other things to get that EMC value built up in that table, and anytime you need something, you just take it out of the table. So yeah, I want to use these endgame features in a real world, but I don't want to use, or mid-game, but I don't want to use them any earlier, because it will make it pointless to try learning some of the other things. So that's how this is going to go. Alright, I've rambled on, I think, quite enough for this first episode. Didn't go very far, but kind of brought you up to speed on what has been going on here and the intentions, the plan for this. So we will pick up where we left off tomorrow then.